Though the matter at hand seems to be life and death, war and renunciation, but what Sri Krishna is actually instructing Arjun is in the non-existence of the self. It would be a mistake to think that Krishna is saying that death does not matter. He is saying death does not happen. And something is impossible to happen, is non-existent. How can it be important or material? It is in the deep insights of the Upanishads that Arjun is being instructed. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Remember, the person has not been named here. Though in the various commentaries and interpretations, you might find the word person used. That the person who has taken birth will necessarily die, and the person who has died will take birth. But that's not really the case here. Prakriti means rise and fall, change of form, arrival and departure. That is the very definition of Prakriti. And since what we call as the human being is really no different from the water droplet, therefore whatever happens to the water droplet also happens to the human being. If I ask you, how is a water droplet really different from a person, you will say the person says I. The person is alive. That exactly is the point. That which you call as life is fiction, and therefore death is not possible. You and the water droplet are one. Therefore, just as the water droplet goes through the various points in its life cycle, you too will. There was the vapor that condensed, formed a drop. Then that drop goes about doing a lot of things, mixing with that, reacting with that. And then a point comes when the drop is no more. Either it has revaporized, or it has split, or it has reacted with something and lost its identity. It's no more in the form in which it can be still called a drop. The same thing happens to the human being. Just that there is the assumption called the ego, which uses two very specific words, specific to human beings: life, rather birth, and death. When the water drop vaporizes, you do not say it has died. You simply say it has vaporized. But when a human being changes form, you say he has died. You take hydrogen and oxygen, the two gases, and get them to react over a couple of electrodes. You get water droplets. But you do not say water has taken birth. Whereas when the male cell and the female cell combine to form a human being, we say a human being has taken birth. That is the only difference. But that difference is not existential. The difference is of nomenclature. You are naming a phenomena in one particular way and you are naming it in another one in another way. Why? Because when it comes to the water droplet, there is no stake in identifying with it. When it comes to the birth of a baby, the one who is describing the process, the phenomena, has a huge stake because he too was once a baby. Therefore, when it comes to their own genesis, human beings start using very special, albeit preposterous terms, like birth, like death. We should simply say the baby was formed. The moment you say birth, nothing special takes birth. The ego takes birth. By using the word birth, you have given birth to the ego. By making the baby special, by making the baby different from the water droplet. A lot of people who are not versed in the tenets of Vedant or in the Gita might be finding the discussion so far a bit outlandish, but that's all right. Common sense would say, but obviously there is a difference between a human being and H2O. I ask you again, get a little impartial. What really is the difference? What really is the difference? You will say consciousness. We have discussed that 1,000 times. How our consciousness is all material. You will say thoughts, feelings, emotions and all that. Well, those are just phenomena observed when huge polymer chains get together to make complex structures. Are you getting it? So, superficially, it's about whether or not Arjun would fight the war. Deeply, it's about whether or not Arjun comes to terms with the non-existence of the so-called fighters on both the sides. Arjun has to realize that there is no point deciding from the center of the ego, because the ego is anyway non-existent. There is nothing under your feet when you are trying to run. You are trying to run in empty space. You won't have to do anything special to fall. You are falling all the time. There is nothing under your feet. Are you getting it? So Arjun, at the level of the fact, there is Prakriti. And then when you realize that Prakriti is only to itself, Prakriti is only to itself. Just as magnetism is only to the iron piece. Put wood next to a very powerful magnet, nothing happens. So at the level of the fact, there is Prakriti. And when you get deeper into it, you realize Prakriti too is only to itself. So then you say, well, truth is non-dual. The truth is that even Prakriti is very subjective. And it's very quaintly subjective. Prakriti is the object, Prakriti is also the subject. Look at the magnet and the iron piece. One of them is the object, one of them is the subject. Both of them belong to Prakriti. So therefore the truth is that Prakriti too is kind of fictitious at one level. Why? Because truth has to be independent. No? That's the basic qualification. Prakriti is not independent. Its existence is dependent on itself. Who can verify that Prakriti exists? Only Prakriti. Who can verify that a piece of iron is magnetized? Another piece of iron. Therefore, there can be no independent verification. Hence, if we want to be really rigorous with our definitions, then Prakriti too turns out to be, well, fictitious. Hence, the truth is a pure, beautiful emptiness. Hence, only these two are worthy of consideration. Either Prakriti or truth. At the level of fact, Prakriti. And then at the absolute level, the truth. Apart from these two, what are you busy with, Arjun? There is the truth, there is a fact, and if there is something besides these two, that must be just fiction, imagination. You are suffering in your imagination, Arjun. The ego is imaginary. The sufferer is imaginary. And that recognition is the most powerful way to relieve the sufferer of its suffering. Nothing has happened to you in particular. What are you so busy suffering with? What is happening is universal. Prakriti is universal. What is happening is universal. Nothing is happening to you in particular. The ego is a particularity. Something happened to me in particular. No, nothing happened to you in particular. It's a general phenomena. Who are you to claim such a special position that special things will happen only to you specifically in particular? But that's what the ego wants to say, I'm special, stuff happened to me. It's a general thing. The general thing, you're a part of the whole. In fact, if something is happening to you, is actually happening in the whole. You're getting it? You're not apart from the whole. You are the whole. You are Prakriti. And that also very smoothly then shows why you cannot be consumers of Prakriti, because you are Prakriti. There is no point trying to consume the jungle, because you are the jungle. You haven't come to the earth. You are the earth. Therefore, when you are saving the earth, you are not saving the earth. Saving yourself. You never took birth. You are always here as the earth. Oh, that rhymes. Poster material. You never took birth. You are always here as the earth. But that's not how our culture sees it. We say, we came to this earth and then one day we will depart. What do you mean by depart? You rose from the soil. You are the soil. You will remain the soil. What kind of departure are you alluding to? No departure is possible. Some people want to say, no, this is like some kind of hotel or sarai or something in lodge. We checked in, we'll check out, we are visitors here, we are guests. What do you mean by you are a visitor here? Such ignorance. You came visiting. From where? You went back to? You haven't come visiting here. You haven't checked in. You are always here. There is no place to go to. You aren't special. You aren't separate from this place that you're calling as the lodge or the tavern or whatever. You were always here. It's just that the nature of the particles in the universe is to keep changing, colliding, taking this form, taking that form. All kinds of mischief is constantly happening in Prakriti. Chanchal. She's never at rest. Always moving. And in the random course of her movement, sometimes this thing called the human being is formed. Sometimes. May form, may not form. Probabilistic. Probabilistic. Are you getting it? Soil becomes what you call as the sentient being. The sentient being becomes the soil. The soil will once again become another sentient being. When? Nobody knows. It's all stochastic. Of what kind? What shape? What species? Not predictable. something will happen. It's also random, like Brownian motion. Are you getting it? So that's what is happening, Arjun. Now let's address the problem at hand. The problem at hand is human suffering. All suffering comes from taking the self as real. Therefore, whenever you find a person suffering, if you really are a well-wisher, the only authentic route is to educate that person in the non-existence of the ego. How you do that depends on your wisdom and the situation. Remember how the wise Buddha instructed that woman who came to him? She had lost her kid. And she thought that the Buddha too is one of those magicians. He will conjure up some miracle and get her baby back. Pay attention to what the Buddha really did. Look at the technique used. He tells her, you go and get me something, he said. Don't remember the details. Some salt or rice or something. You go and get me some stuff from some house that has never ever lost one of its members. The woman found hope. I can see her very briskly walking to the village, knocking at doors, asking for some rice and saying, just one question. Nobody ever died here, right? In the entire village, she could not find a single such house. She must have ran to the next village. And there again the same thing. And after she had exhausted all the villages and was thoroughly spent in her effort, something cracked inside her. The shell broke open, and tired and exhausted, she returned to the Buddha. And then there was no need of words. Everything was understood. Nothing has happened to you in particular. You do not exist, your baby does not exist. It's a general happening. What are you grieving over? The Buddha was not an academician. You ask him, he would never say, I'm a scholar. He would say, I'm a doctor. I would not make the woman sit and throw sutras and principles and theories and dictums at her. I'm not going to do that. Instead, he conducted a very practical experiment. But the objective was the same. What is happening is in the course of Prakriti, which is universal, general. What are you so excited about? Look at the sun setting, that's you. Look at the birds, that's you. You're not special, you're not different, you're not unique, you're not separate at all. The water that's flowing, that's you. Are you getting it? pursue. The dualistic apparition that is out there somewhere, and I am the observer who is in somewhere here. This dualistic separation is the cause of all misery. This and that are one. And if you don't want to accept that, show me one way in which you are special. Show me one way in which you are special, unique. Now you see why the man of wisdom does not get excited too easily. Everything is just so quotidian, regular, general, repetitive. Or something happened. No, the happening is ubiquitous. How do I get excited? You can get excited only over something that is special. But there is nothing special. It's all over the place. When it's all over the place, it's all over for you. Finished once you see that. Gone. Are you getting it? So why must Arjun fight? Fine, Arjun has understood all. Why would he fight? So that human suffering can be alleviated. It's not about getting the throne. Why? Because there is nobody to wear the throne. Arjun does not. If Arjun does not exist, who is to be throned? It cannot be about the throne. It's about the millions at least who will be influenced by state policies. And that's a huge thing. It moves a man of compassion. Fine, I understand I don't exist. But that fellow there, he does not understand that he doesn't exist. To him, he does. And since to him he does, he suffers. And if there happens to be an occupant of the throne who will further self-centered ignorance, then there is a problem. So it's not that Arjun must be on the throne or wear the crown. The thing is not that Arjun must occupy the throne or wear the crown. Duryodhan has to be stopped. Well, if he ascends to the throne, then he is going to cause widespread anguish. That's the thing. Are you getting it? And as long as Arjun keeps believing in his identity as Duryodhan's kin and Drona's student, he'll not fight. At least not wholeheartedly. Therefore, Arjun has to be relieved of his identity. If you do not expunge Duryodhan and Drona and Bhishma from the insides of Arjun, he will not fight. The opponents are not situated outside there in the enemy lines. The opponents are all sitting within Arjun as his flesh and blood. So Arjun has to be relieved of his identity. And that's what is being done. The non-existence of the ego, the self, is being impressed upon him. No, I'm no more your kid, Pitama. No more your kid. No, Duryodhan, no. My 100 other brothers. I'm no more your brother. Who am I then? I am a void. I am someone who has been relieved of his suffering. And I'm fighting to relieve others of their suffering. And I'm fighting you just because you come in the way. Otherwise, I have no purpose in fighting you. I covet neither the throne nor the riches nor the prestige that accompanies them. I covet none of them. Why? Because to covet something, somebody must exist. No, I don't exist to covet anything. I'm a void, a pure nothingness. I'm fighting not for myself. Why? Because myself does not exist. So I cannot fight for myself. Can you put the war in perspective now? Can you see why the Gita was necessary and why nothing else would have succeeded? If you want a person to do the best he can, relieve him of his personality, his personhood. As long as the person remains the person, he will act within the confines of the personality. And that won't take him far. Similarly, the next one, verse 28 of chapter 2. All beings are unmanifested, then they manifest, and then they again move into unmanifestation. That's there. What's there to grieve about? Mind you, Sri Krishna uses the word bhutani, plural for entities. Those entities may include human beings. Bhut simply means something that exists. In the classical language, bhut simply means something that exists. That means all beings. All beings, including sentient as well as insentient beings. Because the same thing applies to both the sides. Didn't exist, found existence, and then lapsed again. Go back to the water droplet. Did it always exist? No. Found existence and then was gone again. So actually, what is it that takes form? A name, nothing else. The water droplet was always there. But when it takes a specific form, then you give it a specific name. So much for a name. That is happening constantly with every being, including human beings. Show me one thing that is eternal. Just as nothing is eternal here. From the tiniest atom to the biggest galaxy, everything is in the process of formation, continuation, dissolution. Forms, stays, goes. Is that not the thing, the story with every entity that you can think of, experience, right? There are microorganisms whose entire life is of a few seconds. Think, there exist beings, you would want to call them conscious beings. They come, they stay for seconds, they are gone. That's their entire life cycle. Equally, there are subatomic particles whose entire life is of the order of 10 to the power minus 3 seconds, 10 to the power minus 5 seconds, even 10 to the power minus 10 seconds. You know of particle accelerators, right? Such specific particles can be produced only under very special conditions. You would say, oh, they have such short lifespans. No, to them that is their eternity. Human beings last 80 years. So, because our identification with this body, 80 or 100 becomes our gold standard. So we measure everything from there, 80 or 100. There are trees that live for hundreds and thousands of years. We marvel at them. Oh, and tortoises, they're so old. Oh my God, lives for so long. And when we look at those insects that come and go, we say, oh, they hardly exist. And then there are bosons and mesons, again with very small lifespans. You can say very small. No, not small. Small compared to what? Small compared to what? Your answer will be my lifespan. The point is, everything, every entity is following the same cycle. Comes, stays, goes. If that is what is continuously happening, what are you grieving over, Arjun? You cannot kill them because on your side you don't exist to kill, on their side they don't exist to be killed. But you can realize that since I am instructing you, they have refused to realize that. You can realize that. They don't realize that. And because they don't realize that, they will not let others realize that. And if people do not realize the fact of their non-being, then they suffer. So these chaps, they are going to become the reason for widespread suffering. That's why, Arjun, you must fight. That's all.